Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen, and today we're going to be talking about Gateron Ink V1s versus Gateron Ink V2s and why I personally use Gateron Ink V1s. Alright, before we get started, you know I'm going to hit you with the values, so please give me a thumbs up, please give me a subscribe if you haven't already. Helps me out on the algorithm, and if we can hit 20k subs, I will do a review video in wing mode, an entire review video. Yeah. So to get started, I'm gonna make you a quick statement. So if you just wanted the answer to this question, you can click off the Gateron Ink V1 versus the Gateron Ink V2. Gateron Ink V1 is smoother, like glass-like smoothness, legendary smoothness, but the issue is that it has loose leaf issues with the pin and the leaf and all that. What that means is when you're installing the switch, the leaf may move, leading to a weird crunchy sound when you bottom out in the switch. This can be fixed by just pulling all the pins out, but it just adds more time to the installation process. Gateron Ink V2s was a fix to this problem with the loose leaf, but they introduced something new, which is inconsistent scratchiness from batch to batch. Is there a best vendor to buy from? No, because it changes depending on when they order. So V1 smooth, V2 scratchy, V1 loose leaf, V2 tighter leaves and easier to install. That's a summary. So if you wanted that answer, you can click off now. See you later, see you in the next video. For the rest of you who are staying, let's go down the history of why this came to be and why this all happened and what you can do about your V2 inks to try to make them better. So the Gateron Ink V2 happened around 2019, winter of 2019. That's when things changed to the new molds. So Gateron was providing a fix to the loose leaf issues that we were all complaining about. Unbeknownst to us, the fix would make things worse and kind of ruin one of the greatest aspects of the switch, which is the smoothness. So how bad is the Gateron Ink V2? First, the spring, it's pingy. Most people spring swap it. So V1s had pretty good 70-gram springs. V2s, throw them out. They're not worth keeping, in my opinion. If you can't afford another spring, then go ahead and try to use it. But if you have the dough, a little bit more money, swap them out, get something different. And it's inconsistently scratchy. So from batch to batch, you don't know how many good ones you're gonna get. You may get some really good smooth ones, but it won't be the entire batch. And that's the worst thing about a keyboard, where some keys are smooth and some keys are scratchy. So that would bother me. I don't know if it bothers you. It was hard to figure out what exactly ruined the smoothness of the switch, but from few reports in my community, we believe that is the stem. If you swap the stem, that smoothness comes back. But if you swap to something like an alpaca stem, because an alpaca is a little bit clackier, the ink ends up being a little bit clackier. It still has that signature ink pop, but that sound is just ever so slightly different. And on top of that, it's expensive to use another stem to make your inks sound like inks or smoother. That's like the cost of 2 switches for one. So what is the best ink? Well, there's an OG Gateron ink, which is before the V1, which is smooth, the leaves are good, and there's no real issues with them. Can you find them? Probably not, I've never seen them. And the Gateron Ink V1 has a loose leaf issue, but at least it's smooth and you can work around it. It just takes more time to be careful with the pins when you install it into the PCB. You can't really use it with the hot swap because the hot swap socket might push the pin up. I can deal with all that. I only use solder boards because I like the process of soldering. So I can deal with that because I just really want my smoothness, you know? I just really, really want the smoothness, please. So the Gateron Ink V2 is inconsistently scratchy from batch to batch, from vendor to vendor, depending on when you buy, but at least it's more available. V1s are not sold by any vendor anymore because they changed molds in winter 2019 and they didn't really go back to the old mold. What does inconsistent mean? Well, in your batch, you'll have some that are very smooth, some that are medium smooth, and some that are pretty scratchy. It's pretty frustrating because now you won't have consistency across your board. That's just the reality. So the scratch, how bad is this scratch? The scratch can be audible in the ear. Personally, I can actually hear it when sitting straight up typing as well. That sucks to be able to hear. If you wear headphones though, if you wear headphones, you won't really hear it, but that's true with any like bad switch. But you have to keep this in mind. It's a little frustrating. Does it affect the feel? I don't think so. I think it's really just an auditory thing. I don't feel resistance when I press down the stem. It's just sound. So with the description out of the way, I'll give you a sound test of the 3 switches. This is a stock V1. You're gonna hear a few things. You're gonna hear spring noise, which is pretty distracting, which most people spring swap. You're gonna hear some scratchiness as well, but it's really hard to tell because Usually when you lube a switch, most of the scratch goes away. So here's the V2 ink stock. Alright, so we just did the stock stock ink V2. And now we're gonna go all the way back to a lubed V1. This one's, you're not gonna hear a damn thing. Spring swap, there's not using the V2 spring. And now with the white film, we have the ink V2 lubed, and it's still pretty good. I don't keep bad V2s, but you can hear a difference. So once again, this is going to be V1. Here's going to be V2. Please note that this mic is nutty, and this mic will pick up damn everything, but it will highlight the differences between the two. In my opinion, you can actually hear the scratch of the V2 even while sitting at this height. So I'm talking about like sitting right here, typing away. I can hear it. I can hear it. It's not too distracting like MX Black, but you can hear it. They get a little bit more scratchy. Does lube fully remove the scratch? Unfortunately not. So where do you get V1 inks? Unfortunately, you can't get V1 inks anymore. They're not sold by vendors. So if you're trying to buy it, you have to buy it secondhand from someone who bought Gateron ink before winter of 2019. That's a little bit hard to track down. So what you can only buy from vendors right now, from vendors such as DiviniKey, Novel Keys, 1UP, or any other vendors, is a V2 ink. What can you do with V2 inks to make them sound as good as V1 inks? There's a few options. One, you can break them in. If you want to break them in stock, you can probably do it in a month of daily use. You can lube them and it will take you a few months instead, but at least they'll be lubed and won't sound as bad. Yeah, I hate using stock switches to break them in. I don't really break in switches like that. You can also stem swap them. So if you wanted to try Cream Alpaca with a Novel Keys cream stem or a Kale black stem, and you have extra stems for your alpacas, you took them out, you can take those stems and put them in the Gateron ink, and that should make it smoother. Should be as smooth as a Gateron ink V1. Unfortunately, this changes the sound signature a little bit because every switch has slightly different breakdown of materials for the components, but at least you'll have a smooth ink. Number three, you can just buy Gateron ink V1s from Mech Market, but that's not as easy as it sounds. I don't think people are really selling specifically Gateron ink V1s unless you get lucky. Those are really the only options. Unfortunately, I can't really sell my Gateron ink V1s because I got really lucky on Mech Market and I don't want to give it away. People ask me a lot though, please stop. So what are alternatives? Well, if you're just chasing smoothness, the Gateron ink hype was before JWKs. So once JWK and Durock linears came to the market, you can get really good smoothness without Gateron inks. So if you can deal with clack and you like the clack sound, go with a JWK like an Alpaca or a Mob or something like that. And if you want a deep sound, they came out with full nylon JWKs, such as the Lavender, the JWK Giant V3, or the Compe 2, or the Marshmallow. Each have a slightly different percentage of nylon in the top. So if you have a polycarbonate top, nylon bottom, like an Alpaca or a Mauve, it tends to be pretty clacky. And if you have a full nylon switch, so nylon top, nylon bottom, it tends to be a little bit deeper. So you can get a deeper sound, although it's not the full Gateron ink like pop, that's very unique to the plastic breakdown of it, at least you have a deep sound. So you can get that thunk. I also want to mention there are also 8008 inks, and those are using the same molds as the V2. And something weird that I've heard from people is that they said that the 8008 ink, which is just a recolored V2 with a different stem, the Gateron yellow stem, actually sounds different from a regular ink. So if you're considering buying that, try to talk to people or hear some sound tests to see if that's the sound that you want. I personally have never tried the 8008 inks. I already have my V1s and I'm pretty happy where I am. I don't want to test anymore. I got burned with the V2, I got a stash of V2, and I don't want to do that again. So that's it. That's the breakdown of the Gateron ink V1, the Gateron ink V2, some alternatives, some fixes for the V2 if you're stuck with them. And I want to mention one more time, I'm not selling my V1s, sorry. They're going to the grave with me. Hopefully you liked the video. Please give me a like if you like this kind of content. Please subscribe if you want to see more. I stream on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday on Twitch, and also stream on Tuesday, Thursdays on YouTube. Maybe both days, maybe one day, but those are the days you can find me. And join the Discord, join the Twitter to get updates as to when I go live. Hopefully you're not too sad about the reality of the Gateron inks. V2s are pretty serviceable, at least they still sound like inks. Maybe you can get used to the scratch. I personally couldn't. That's why I really hunted down the V1s. And hopefully you find the Thaki switch that fills your heart with joy. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.